In recent years, the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East has been marked by rising tensions between two of the world's most powerful nations, the United States and Iran. What was once a diplomatic dialogue has now escalated into a nuclear standoff. Iran has issued a stark warning: attack us, and we will develop nuclear weapons. This significant shift in Iran's nuclear policy comes after renewed threats from former U.S. President Donald Trump, who has suggested possible military action against Iran's nuclear facilities. But what has led to this dramatic escalation? And what does this mean for the future of nuclear diplomacy in the Middle East? In this video, we'll dive into the heart of this growing crisis and examine the complex forces driving Iran's nuclear brinkmanship. Iran's message to the United States is clear: if attacked, Iran will pursue nuclear weapons. This bold statement came directly from Ali Larijani, an advisor to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who made it clear that Tehran would have no choice but to develop nuclear weapons should the U.S. misstep. The confrontation between the two nations has reached a boiling point, marking the highest level of tension in recent years. So why now? What has sparked this dramatic shift in Tehran's stance on nuclear weapons? To understand this, we need to take a look at the broader context and historical tensions that have led to this moment. According to intelligence sources, Iran has allegedly prepared to develop 612 nuclear warheads if necessary, with hidden facilities reportedly buried 300 meters underground. The Arms Control Association warns that Iran is now closer to producing nuclear weapons than ever before. This crisis is rooted in the U.S. withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear agreement, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA. After President Trump's decision to pull the U.S. out of the deal, Iran began steadily expanding its uranium enrichment activities, gradually moving beyond the limits set in the original agreement. Since then, Iran has resisted any new negotiations, opting instead to continue its nuclear advancements. This raises the critical question: why is Iran making such a bold move now? Why is the country so adamant about maintaining its nuclear ambitions? To fully understand the current standoff, we must look back at how the maximum pressure strategy fundamentally changed U.S.-Iran relations. In 2018, when President Trump pulled the United States out of the nuclear deal, the decision was framed as an effort to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions and limit its influence in the Middle East. Following the U.S. withdrawal, severe economic sanctions were reimposed on Iran, crippling its economy. In response, Tehran gradually began to escalate its uranium enrichment activities beyond the agreed-upon limits, signaling its dissatisfaction with the collapse of the deal. Trump's maximum pressure campaign wasn't just about sanctions, though. It was a broader effort to isolate Iran diplomatically and militarily, with the ultimate goal of forcing Iran to give up its nuclear program. But as we can see now, this strategy only deepened the divide, leading to the very nuclear brinkmanship that both countries now face. Now, Trump has revived his hardline approach, with National Security Advisor Mike Waltz demanding Iran completely surrender its nuclear program or face dire consequences. In response, Iran has reacted defiantly. Iranian officials, including UN Ambassador Amir Sayed Irani, condemned Trump's remarks, pledging swift and decisive retaliation against any aggression. In a letter to the UN Security Council, Iran warned that any military action by the U.S. would lead to dire consequences. Senior Iranian military commanders, like General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, have made it clear that the U.S. should be careful when making threats, particularly given the heavy U.S. military presence in the region. As General Hajizadeh put it, someone in a glass house should not throw stones, referring to the presence of 50,000 U.S. troops and American bases throughout the Middle East. This military presence is a constant source of friction between the two countries. Additionally, Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, responded to Trump's threats by emphasizing that any attempt to engage in mischief would trigger a strong and decisive counterattack. This rhetoric has only served to heighten tensions. Despite some attempts at diplomacy, such as Iran's response to U.S. overtures through Oman, the two nations remain locked in a stalemate. Iran has categorically refused to negotiate under pressure or the threat of force. The diplomatic channels remain severely strained. The situation is further complicated by recent Israeli strikes against Iranian air defenses. These strikes have weakened Iran's defensive capabilities and exposed critical vulnerabilities, making Tehran even more determined to retain its nuclear option as a deterrent. Nuclear experts have repeatedly warned that military strikes against Iran's nuclear sites might only delay the program by a few months at most. However, such actions could ultimately drive Tehran to accelerate its nuclear ambitions, as Iran may come to believe that nuclear weapons are essential for its national security and deterrence. This is a dangerous scenario, one that could lead to further escalation and potentially spark a regional arms race. If Iran moves forward with developing nuclear weapons, it could prompt other Middle Eastern countries, like Saudi Arabia, to follow suit. The global implications of Iran pursuing nuclear weapons would be far-reaching. It could spark a dangerous arms race in the Middle East, with Saudi Arabia and other regional powers likely seeking their own nuclear capabilities in response. But what does this mean for the wider world? Could diplomacy still prevail? Or is this cycle of threats and counter-threats inevitably leading us toward armed conflict or nuclear proliferation? For now, both sides remain entrenched in their positions. The United States demands complete nuclear surrender, while Iran insists on its sovereign rights to nuclear technology under international law. As tensions continue to rise, the world watches anxiously. The decisions made in Washington and Tehran in the coming weeks could shape the future of regional security for decades to come. Will diplomacy win the day, or will we see the next chapter in this dangerous nuclear standoff? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth analysis of global issues. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think will happen next in the Iran-U.S. nuclear standoff? We'd love to hear from you.